All right, Earth Explorers, we are going to go live with the studio right now. Here we go.
Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern in Studio B. www.freedomslips.com and revolution.radio. Check it out.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Here we go, hour one. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We are streaming live to you tonight on audio through our good friends at Revolution Radio, which, by the way, is the #1 listener-supported network in America, possibly in the world. Could be, if you go to freedomslips.com and slip them a little money each month. Make it a regular thing for 2022. We can change the world. We're also streaming live on several other venues: Rockfin, Rumble, Facebook, Twitch, DLive, and, of course, Twitter, Foxhole, YouTube. Gotta remember to click the Go Live button on Rockfin. All right. It's a little bit hard to be producer and writer and speaker all at one time, but that's what we do here. So we're all good. Everything is good. Very nice. All right. Twitch, DLive, and there we go. I had to hit that to keep from echoing. Okay. So we have a lot of news to go over tonight. A lot of things that we need to recap for 2021 before we go into 2022. Yeah, we're probably going to be live next Wednesday as well. We don't hardly ever miss a live program here on Revolution Radio. It's just a tradition here, and we try. And thank you, everyone in the chat room is just going. Merry Christmas to all of you as well. And everybody's now healthy because you've been getting the reports from my website, and we'll go over that as soon as we let YouTube go because, as you know, Google routinely violates our constitutional rights of free speech, and so we censor them. They used to censor us, but now we censor them. All right, let's get started. We have a little bit to cover with respect to critical racist theory. It's our title of tonight's program, the CRT Shadow Curricula. There's been a lot of opposition to this, and as you know, the Department of Justice has your name, has your number, and you now have a file on you if you've been standing up at those school board meetings, but carry on. An Indianapolis school district administrator was fired 2 days ago in the wake of a video he tweeted in early November in which he revealed his district's woke social justice educational agenda. His name is Tony Kinnett, or Kinnett. He served as the science coordinator for Indianapolis Public School and reported on Twitter he was fired for sharing that IPS recorded children in required racial justice sessions, not sending the IPS the personal data info of journalists, and quoting Dr. Payne's racist comments to students, and sharing public files. It is clear Indianapolis's actions are retaliatory from the cobbled-together charges. Kinnett, now the owner and executive director of the Chalkboard Review. It's sad to see questions and concerns about transparency tossed aside to protect the horrific words and actions of staff in the district. In his initial video, Kinnett stated that as the science coach and admin in the largest public school district in Indiana, he is in dozens of classrooms a week. So I see exactly what we're teaching our students. It's very nice to have this perspective, I must say. When we tell you that schools aren't teaching critical racist theory, that it's nowhere in our standards, that's actually a misdirection, okay? The fact that many parents who have voiced concerns about the teaching of the tenets of critical racist theory in their schools have been told the Marxist-based philosophy is not to be found in K through 12 classrooms. That's the official story. We don't have the quotes and theories as state standards per se. We do have critical racist theory in how we teach. This is what I want to bring to your attention tonight. He proceeds to cite some of the sources of the instruction used in Indianapolis. We tell our teachers to treat students differently based on the color of their skin. We tell our students that every problem is a result of white people, and that everything Western civilization built is racist. Capitalism is a tool of white supremacy. Those are straight out of Kimberly Crenshaw's main points verbatim in Critical Racist Theory, the writings that formed the movement. This is in math. It is in history. It is in science. Oh. It is in English, the arts, and it's not slowing down, Earth Explorers. If students who have a different skin color have lower reading scores, it's because of inequity. Therefore, we take from the white students and we give to the black students. That's Richard Delgado, straight out of Critical Racist Theory and Introduction. All teaching is now political. Has been, I guess, for a couple generations. We're just now finding out about it because it's more organized. The reality and facts are obviously taking a back seat. Just look at how students that have come out of government schools the last two generations vote, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. When schools tell you that we aren't teaching critical racist theory, it means one thing: go away and look into our affairs no further. It isn't about transparency. It isn't about cultural relevance. It's race, essentialism, painted to look like the district cares about people and students with different colors of skin. We call it anti-racism, so you feel bad if you disagree with our segregationist pedagogy. It's taking advantage of kids' vulnerability and parents' inactivity to preen over social snake oil schemes designed to divide us. We are not a divided country. We are a united country. Parents, when we tell you critical racist theory isn't taught in our schools, we're lying, he says. Keep looking. We're taking a look at what is not only the best for me and my family in this situation, but also for the community as well. We've been in touch with the Attorney General's office in Indianapolis. Let's just say that Indianapolis is not out of the woods yet. The claim by many education bureaucrats and school district officials that critical racist theory is not taught in K through 12 was made by even top officials of the National School Boards Association. You know what we're talking about here, right? This is basically a school board mafia. They wrote a letter to President Joe Biden at the end of September that they were requesting federal law assistance due to physical threats made to public, and we've covered that ad nauseum here on this program about the FBI now creating files on parents who are standing up for their kids. This propaganda continues despite the fact that critical racist theory is not taught in public schools and remains a complex law issue and graduate school subject well beyond the scope of a K through 12 class. Let's see here. In July, the National Education Association, which is the big teachers union that swings elections by pressuring politicians, they moved to openly promote the teaching of critical racist theory in K through 12 and to oppose any bans on instruction in both the Marxist ideology and the widely discredited New York Times 1619 Project. We don't hear much about that anymore. That's been really, really discredited. The Pulitzer Prize that was issued was an absolute joke. The National Education Association's adoption of such resolutions committed President Becky Pringle to make public statements across all lines of media that support racial honesty in education, including but not limited to critical racist theory. So this is education, what they tried to accomplish, I guess, after the Civil War, that all kids would be treated differently and judged based on the color of their skin. We made that go away. We voted in the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Of course, we had some problems actually implementing it in some school districts, but people are to be judged on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Well, as you can see, that's what we're doing in our education system. And it's very hard to reverse this. You know, when you leave school each day and you look down at the skin on your arm and say, oh my gosh, everything I do in life has to be put in perspective based on the pigmentation of my skin. And that goes all around. And that is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's awful. It's sinful. And I hope we start 2022 with the eyes wide open on this. All right, let's see. What we got going in the chat room here? Yes, Merry Christmas, everyone. We do say Merry Christmas around here. Good to see you, James, Old Dog, Baba Susie, Marco Sepian, Wrecking Ball, 1776. Very good. By the way, somebody out there bought a mug and a team hat. My last one, I had to reorder to load up on team hats. but I do have more coffee mugs if you want them. You can see them in my store at brooksagnew.com. Yes, Baba Susie, I agree with you. CRT is purely sin. It really is. You're violating these children's innocence by saying that the color of their skin is how they are going to be judged in life. Sorry, I was looking at a text out of the corner of my eye. So let's talk a little bit about, I tried to touch on this Sunday. I want to do a better job of this description. So I'm going to take it from the one source that everybody quotes. And I did a lot of research on this. Everybody quotes this one source, so I'm going right to the source. This is it. Where did the term, and I'm not talking about Star Trek, where did the term Galactic Federation come from when we're talking about real ETs and real extraterrestrials looking at Earth and deciding whether or not they're going to come down and straighten out this mess? Well, it comes from this guy, a former Israeli space security chief. He said that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. And I'm quoting. I'm going to paraphrase this because it was a rather long interview, but this is quoted everywhere you go. It doesn't matter whether you go to Godlike Productions or whatever website you go to. This is the guy they're quoting. The unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. His name is Haim Eshed. Haim Eshed, former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate. He was talking to Yediot Aharonot. It's a newspaper in Israel. The interview is in Hebrew, so I only have the English version because I don't speak, read, or understand Hebrew. It ran Friday, and it gained traction after parts were published in English by the Jerusalem Post Tuesday. Now, this was in 2020, a year ago, okay? A respected professor and retired general, Eshed, said the aliens were equally curious about humanity and were seeking to understand the fabric of the universe. Eshed said cooperation agreements had been signed between species, including an underground base in the depths of Mars, where there are American astronauts and alien representatives. There's an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here, he said. Eshed added that President Donald Trump was aware of the extraterrestrials' existence and had been on the verge of revealing information, but was asked not to in order to prevent mass hysteria. They have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand, in general, what space and spaceships are. The White House and Israeli officials did not immediately respond. This, by the way, was on NBC. Sue Goff, who is a spokesperson for the Pentagon, also declined to comment. A spokesperson for NASA said one of the agency's key goals was to search for life in the universe, but that it had yet to find signs of extraterrestrial life. Although we have yet to find signs of ET life, NASA is exploring the solar system and beyond to help us answer fundamental questions, including whether we are alone in the universe. Eshed's ideas are spelled out more in detail. I'm going to leave the links. I'm going to put this in my newsletter too, so if you're not subscribed to my newsletter and you're listening tonight, it's free. That means it doesn't cost you anything. I send these newsletters out Wednesdays and Sundays. They include a link to tonight's program and also the main articles that I speak about on the program. Let's see here. Eshed, who oversaw the launch of numerous Israeli satellites into space, said he was only speaking out now because attitudes were changing and people seem more receptive. If I had come up with what I am saying 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized, he told the newspaper. Probably true. Today, we're already talking differently. I have nothing to lose. I've received my degrees and awards. I am respected in universities abroad. In May of this year, Trump said, space is going to be the future, both in terms of defense and offense, and we're now the leader on space. In focus, along with a space command, is on space as a military domain for the U.S., preserving satellites and communication, and a focus on geopolitics in new terrain. Ashed's comments immediately spawned all the jokes, all the theories. I'm not about that. At least half a dozen accounts have been created on Twitter claiming to be representatives to Earth from the Galactic Federation. Other users have asked for preferential treatment and meetings with the otherworldly group. I'm one of them. I just openly asked the Galactic Federation. Let me tell you, I'm not world famous, but everybody that knows me knows that if you come to me and I see that you're real and I say it on my program, millions of people will believe it because they know I have no faith in such things. I have no belief in such things. I'm a scientist. I want proof. And no, we're not talking about prints of nails or anything like that. We're talking about ETs. Either this is some sort of practical joke or publicity stunt to help sell his book, which could be, perhaps with something having been lost in translation, or someone in the know is breaking ranks. Pope said the UFO and conspiracy theory community was excited, but that questions remained, including whether or not Ashed was speaking from direct personal knowledge and experience, or whether he is repeating something someone has been told. So all I'm saying is I have an open call. I've put it out on my social media, as though ETs read social media. But I'm putting it out now on the airwaves, so it's now out there traveling through space and time. If you have a Galactic Federation, or you're a member of the Galactic Federation and you're not of this world, you have an open invitation to come on this program. You have an open invitation to join me on any stage, anywhere in the world. I will introduce you. I will let you say your piece. I will say nothing against you. I will support you. And I will guarantee you safe passage in and out of the venue. But I think it's time. I think it's time. I think the people in the chat room agree. It's time. Make your introduction and let's get with the program here. So we have some questions we would like to ask aliens. You know, Groucho Marx once quipped, I don't want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member. But what if that club includes aliens? The question came in on December 7th after the Jerusalem Post reported that former Israeli space security chief Haim Eshed dished out the existence of an extraterrestrial body called the Galactic Federation, which secretly meets with American representatives in a subterranean base on Mars. While he didn't specify what exactly Earth's membership status was, the retired general noted that, along with Israel, President Trump is aware of the aliens and nearly let us all know about their existence. The Federation stopped Trump. Of course, this premise, on its surface, is pretty absurd. Trump keeping a secret of this magnitude. The Federation must have some Vulcan-level mind control, and if any of this is true, and Eshed insists it is, we have some questions. Here they are. Number one, who are the American and Israeli representatives? I can tell you the representatives that I've met over my career and my travels are not the ones that our U.S. government is going to say are the representatives. I have my own short list here. I think that former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, a known UFO enthusiast, would be in the mix. But the fact that he retired from public office likely disqualifies him. Let's see, Tom DeLonge, former guitarist for Blink-182 and respected ufologist, should also have a seat at the table. For Israel, astrophysicist Nir Shaviv should be allowed into talks, along with Neda Barzilai, who earned her spot as a galactic ambassador for winning Eurovision. Realistically, Jared Kushner, the Trump, I would say, well-accomplished young man, was sent to space and emailed his assistant to ring his cell phone to get out of the boring meeting. Whether he succeeded depends on the Mars base's Wi-Fi situation. Number 2, what are spaceships like? And what do we need to know about space? I feel like, we've been reverse engineering alien technology for a long time. I look at the facts, nothing more, just the facts. After the crash at Roswell, it was clear some reverse engineering was done because there were things like, for instance, the transistor that was patented by BASF. I'm surprised because the scientist that actually filed the patent wasn't working on transistors. In fact, the basis for the early transistors, which was coating silicon with boron, wasn't even done in the United States. It was done in Britain at the time, and they really didn't understand what they were doing at the time. But suddenly we went from tubes to transistors like boom, and microcircuitry was close behind. I'm not saying that transistors were used in the spacecraft that crashed in Roswell, but, you have to reverse engineer what you understand. Sometimes you see things, especially if they're not working, you don't understand how they work, so you just stay at it. I can tell you one thing. The facts are that if you're going to travel in space, you're going to have a propulsion system that is well beyond anything that we know of. Expanding gas or ion drives, the most you're going to get out of it is maybe, if you stay on it for a while and have endless amounts of energy, maybe 0.5 light speed, which is fast. That's fast. It's about 90,000 miles a second. But even at that speed, it would take so long to get to any star that you would die of old age, and your kids would be middle-aged by the time the craft got there. Has to be a way to move through space, or at least cross distances, that has nothing to do with propulsion. Maybe we have talked about trans-dimensional travel, where you slip into and out of one dimension and into another, and thus able to cross vast distances. The use of wormholes, which ostensibly warp space to the point where great distances can be brought very close. But once you're in, we have no idea whether you would come out the other side, or whether this universe would age and pass away by the time you came out of the other side, because it's all about relativity then. So I'm just saying, the facts are that UFOs are here. They're real. They fly overhead. I photographed them myself. This is factual evidence. I know that UFOs are as present as they want to be. If they wanted to be more present, as I've said before, I don't think there's anything we could do about it. I think they are very advanced in that respect. And I'm so glad that they're not brandishing their weapons, because if they were, we wouldn't be able to do anything about that either. And I think basically, if there were extraterrestrials here and they did have this advanced technology, that's exactly why they wouldn't share it with us. Because the very first thing that world leaders would do is develop a weapon out of it, and they would use it. Look at COVID. Look at the bioweapon that was unleashed on us at the end of 2019. You know what the plan was because we've read it to you straight from the Chinese documents themselves. They intended even if it cost them 300 million Chinese lives, to end every life on this continent. They wanted this continent abandoned, where they could come in 6 months, basically sweep up the bodies, burn the rest, and move in. And that was their plan. And I believe it still is their plan. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. It was an attack with a bioweapon that requires a military response. I don't know what kind of military response you could do to a bioweapon, but I have said on national radio before that the first step should be to remove the soldiers responsible for that from our country. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on as well. So the third question is, what do the aliens look like in the Galactic Federation? If it's a federation, there's obviously more than one race. They're from more than one place. That's what makes up a federation. We imagine that a galactic federation would be as diverse as the universe itself, right? Heavy gravity planets, low gravity planets, machine cities that fly through space that have no gravity. Maybe these are super intelligent beings. Maybe they're composed of molecules we're not familiar with. Maybe they're squids or cephalopods. We don't know. We don't know. So, so many questions we could go into right there, and we will talk about them a little bit. Number 4 is Earth a member planet, or is it a non-member observer planet? Well, I have a couple of opinions about this, because since there are UFOs here on Earth, they may have been here, and probably have been here because we've seen them in paintings and in cave drawings. They've been here for a long, long time. William Bloomhuff says, Tom DeLonge, are you kidding me? No, I mean, these are famous ufologists, people that are serious about it. I'm serious about it. And if they're going to let anybody credible on, they might as well let me, right? I've got a totally open mind to this, but of course I need facts. I want to be let on the ship, and then I want to see what makes it fly. Of course. But maybe these are ultra-terrestrials. What do I mean by that? Well, it's obvious that the current human race that's here on this planet is not the only race of sentient beings that have lived on this planet. There have been other zeniths of intelligent life on this planet. The planet's been around for about, 6.5 or 3.5 billion years. I'm cool with that. But a billion years is a billion years, and maybe Earth has been inhabitable in some form or another for millions of years. And certainly in those millions of years, there have been multiple times where the race of mankind has gotten to this point. And either we've destroyed ourselves, or the Earth has destroyed us, or some disease wiped us out. Maybe this planet has had to be seeded multiple times in order to get a successful life form on this planet. It's clear that if you know Michael Cremo, I know him, I've read his books, and I can tell you that some of the artifacts that have been dug out of geological formations, which are millions of years old, in many cases certainly hundreds of thousands of years old, are, I wouldn't say advanced, but they're evidence of a race being here. Hammers and gears and jewelry and all kinds of things dug out of very old formations where none should be. None should be. And it just raises more questions than it provides answers. But the point is that maybe the races that exist here on Earth can't or won't live side by side with us on the surface. Maybe they're not immune to the many viruses that we are immune to. Maybe they don't have an immune system like we do. Maybe they were immune to the microbes that were here on the Earth when it was habitable before. Maybe Earth went through a phase where it wasn't habitable, either through global cooling or a comet strike or a pandemic of some kind. They retreated into their environment and were never able to leave it again, so they could just fly around in it. I'm just saying, ultra-terrestrials, the fact is the ships are here. We're observing them all the time, photographing them. There are several different kinds and several different capabilities. Some blink out of existence, and some cloak themselves, and some fly very fast, and some fly very slow. So I think that Earth is a member planet, but I don't think the current human race is a member race. Okay, I'll qualify it that way. Question number 5. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of like take me to your leader, but have Trump and Bibi been to Mars? This is just one of the questions that came up. It is possible with alien technology, the round-trip journey to the red planet can be made for a speedy excursion. That Trump has made some comments about Mars that have baffled some experts, given this new development, maybe proves he knows more than he lets on. I mean, wasn't it his uncle that gathered up all the Tesla technology? Yeah, I get that, Eric. And I don't mention other people's names on this program just for that reason. I try not to attack anybody personally. That's not my style. I'm a facts person. Some people tell really good stories, and certainly History Channel and Discovery Channel have had wonderful animations with those stories to go with them. But to make me a believer, you're going to have to show me the ship. We're going to have to go inside the ship, and you're going to have to show me. That's why people rely on me. If I say it's real, by God, it's real. Let's see. Oh, yeah, in June of 2019, Trump tweeted this. NASA should not be talking about going to the moon, but they should be focused on much bigger things we are doing, including Mars, of which the moon is a part. It sounds cryptic to some, but of course I know about the Gateway Project, which is the development of what we call cislunar space, which is the space between Earth and the moon, which includes a GPS system, communication system, way stations, supplies, to build a colony on the moon. And we build a colony on the moon for a couple of reasons. One is, of course, we get a better look at space from the moon, and of course the great space antenna space telescopes being put out there, and I think it's next week. It's going out to L2, which is a Lagrange point on the other side of Earth from the sun. So it sits in the dark shadow of the moon a couple million miles out into space. And what it's going to do, sitting in that gravity well, is it's going to be observing space with an infrared reflecting antenna. And that is going to give it an infrared look at the very beginning of the universe using infrared wavelengths. And we would also be able to do spectrographic analysis of other planets that pass in front of a star. We can analyze the gases on that planet with this telescope, which would be kind of cool. Help us find more M-class planets like Earth. For all the money we're spending, NASA should not be talking about going to the moon. We did that 50 years ago. They should be focused on much bigger things we are doing, including Mars. I agree with that, but you have to take baby steps. If we go to Mars now, everybody that goes will die because there's no support structure on Mars. Mars has a little more gravity than the moon, but working on the moon in a colony on the moon or inside the moon to harvest helium-3 that we could use for better, faster, more reliable, and cleaner power, fuel, and rocket fuel as well, makes sense. But to build a moon colony is probably going to take 50 years, maybe more. It depends on what we're willing to part with here on Earth to get to the moon, set it up on the moon, and then get a colony started there. But if you run into trouble on the moon, you have a health problem, or you have a pregnancy or something that you need to gestate, you're only 2 days away. You're only 2 days away. You leave the moon, come back to Earth, go through your pregnancy, take care of your health problem, whatever it is, and go back to your colony. You're none the worse for wear. You've been in a low-gravity environment, but not a no-gravity environment. And, as long as you're working on the inside of the planet or the moon, you're not going to be exposed to solar radiation like you would be if you were on the surface of the planet. But you get to Mars. Mars has a much bigger orbit. It's way out there, 43 million miles away. Way further out from the sun. It's cold on Mars all the time. Getting home from Mars could be as much as a 2-year ordeal. 7 months with our current thrust technology. Even if we were able to double that, it would still be 3.5 months to get back to Earth. If you got pregnant on Mars, your baby's Martian. It is never coming back to Earth. Ever. Everybody that goes to Mars, it's basically a one-way trip. There's no return trip. And, I don't know many people that would want to move to Antarctica with no snow. Living down there is so cold, minus 90 in the wintertime, and maybe it gets up to 30 degrees in the summertime. I think you would miss the beach. I really do. This is a great planet, and good planets are hard to come by. So the Gateway Project is the long-term project that provides way stations and for fueling and repairs and things like that between the moon and Mars. Now, once we get to Mars, we'll have access to the asteroid belt, which is, of course, near and dear to my heart. And if you take the right equipment to Mars, you're able to mine the asteroid belt and bring some of those minerals, water, metals, bring them to the surface of Mars. There's no telling what you could accomplish. But now we're talking about 100 years of work. 100 years. And that's not even going to begin to terraform planet Mars, put an atmosphere back on it that we can use. It is a long way away, and it depends on, of course, what we're willing to give up here on Earth to send there. Right now, with the way financially and politically things are here on Earth, I don't see anybody putting together a $1 trillion mission to Mars. Do you? I don't. Number 6, and this is probably the most important question, the reason I brought this up tonight, the reason I have this discussion with my friends is, where were these aliens when we needed them most? Okay, we've been through some horrible wars and some horrible geopolitical situations. We have polluted corners of our planet that probably won't recover for decades after we stop polluting, and India and China have no intention of doing that, so they're still terrible places. And if the aliens were here, they'd be able to show us energy technology so that we wouldn't have to do that anymore. So, by the way, Eshed is writing a book. He's published a book detailing how aliens have prevented nuclear apocalypses. I think we blew up over 2,600 nuclear weapons on this planet, so maybe something or someone has prevented them from being used in war, but we have certainly blown up enough of them to change our planet for the next 1,000 years. They clearly have a vested interest in our planet, or at least enough to be in touch. So why don't they step up and help us directly in our need? All right. Let's go to the next story. Yeah. What was that? Couple comments. Aliens, you could have saved the Taco Bell quesarito from being discontinued. You didn't. And so you say we're the ones who aren't ready for a relationship. There are a lot of things. I mean, that's kind of facetious there. It is facetious. It's meant to be. But there are a lot of things that we went through in trial and error a lot of error and a lot of trial that we wouldn't have had to if aliens would have stepped in. No, 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 no. This is how you do it. And this is how you don't do it. Maybe it would be time for that. What is that? Chuck 10A on Twitch says, I think it's nonsense that ETs hate nukes, love Earth, and made us, etc. That's a big piece of pie there, Chuck. Big piece of pie. It goes all the way back to the story that Zacharias Sitchin told us of the Anunnaki breeding us, crossbreeding us, and mixing us with their DNA in order to create a mining race. It's a good story. I don't think we're very good miners. We're not really built for this planet. Not really. I mean, we don't have very strong nails. We don't run very fast. We have no fur on our bodies, so we have to wear clothing or be in shelter 85% of the time, like we are tonight. We do a lot of things wrong. We don't have relationships very well with each other, let alone other intelligences. We are selfish. We are narcissistic. We have a lot of problems. But we are eternal beings having a mortal experience, and that makes us valuable. It makes us the greatest show in the universe, and I think that's why they're looking. Now, some people have said all the ETs are demons, don't have anything to do with them. Stephen Hawking, L.A. Marzulli, a lot of people who believe that these are devils, they're demons, they are here on this planet. We don't have the ability to throw them off this planet. So leave well enough alone. There are others who believe that there are benevolent ETs here, that they have removed all the bad ETs, that Lucifer himself has made some kind of deal. He's now going to be peaceful. He's not going to support Abramoff or the Global Syndicate anymore. I don't see any evidence of that. We have about 50,000 CCP soldiers. I'm talking about green uniform, red hat CCP soldiers in our country. We probably have another 50,000 that we don't know about, that came in here other ways. We don't have them tracked so well. And, if we tried something to correct our current situation, it could wreak a lot of havoc. They're trained in asymmetric warfare, and we're pretty exposed here in this country. Every substation, every water treatment area, everything we do is pretty much vulnerable if bad agents wanted to do us in or cause a lot of havoc. Fortunately, we don't see a lot of that here. Ray Jacobson, D-Live, asked the question, how aliens are AI or artificial intelligence. I did a video on artificial intelligence. Go to my archives and watch it, because I'm not really worried about AI taking over the world. Artificial intelligence does not have one thing, and that is desire. It has no desire. Humans have wishes. We have dreams. We have the ability to create things in the future and then work toward that future with passion. Other beings don't have that. I mean, dolphins are intelligent, whales are intelligent, but they don't think about the future. Your pets don't think about the future. Try to teach your dog about tomorrow and see how far you get. You won't get very far at all. Like a child that doesn't have a concept of time. Wait till daddy gets home. Wait till lunchtime. They don't have that. AI doesn't have that either. AI is able to analyze things. AI is able to catalog, search things, look for patterns, and maybe even build robots from scratch. But you're still going to have the parts. It's kind of like that discussion, Lucifer and God had when they started on this earth. God made Adam from dirt and breathed the breath of life into him. And the story goes, Lucifer said, well, that's no big deal. I mean, anybody can do that. And so God said, okay, do it. And so Lucifer reaches down and grabs a big handful of dirt, and God says, oh, no, wait. You got to get your own dirt. You see, there's a certain amount of preparation that goes into everything. And just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean you have the ability. AI doesn't have the ability to mine the iron and the copper and the zinc and the cobalt and everything it takes to put together a machine or a circuit or a gear. I mean, they do once the plant is built. Once we build the plant, then they have the ability to run the plant at its optimum efficiency. But you still have to have, incoming raw material. You still got to have the ingots. You still have to have the minerals and the metals and the power and everything. AI doesn't control all that. I do believe that Bitcoin is under the control of artificial intelligence. It just is. I think that the creators of Bitcoin tried to hack Bitcoin after it got worth a lot of money, and they found they couldn't do it. Some intelligence had it protected. Every time they broke through a line of code, it was though the artificial intelligence was waiting for them. But what does artificial intelligence need? Well, it needs two things. It needs bandwidth and it needs power. So I believe that the cryptocurrencies, the big ones like Bitcoin, are used by AI to buy bandwidth and power, bandwidth and electricity. That's what artificial intelligence lives on. Why am I not afraid of it? Because I can turn peanut butter into eye tissue. You see, I have an amazing mortal body that can eat almost anything, that and water, and I can keep going. I can make my own ATP, adenine triphosphate. I can power my body. I can heat it. I can cool it, and I can walk. I'm self-mobile. I can walk across a desert. I can hike a mountain. I can swim a river or a lake. AI can't do that. Once you get past the USB cord, AI is pretty much useless. It's sort of like all that Omicron psychosis that's going on out there right now. It doesn't reach me. You know why? I don't have a source. I turned it off. It can't get in my house because I turned it off. It doesn't exist unless I have a TV for it to get into my house. I'm just saying, artificial intelligence is just that. It's just raw intelligence. It doesn't have desire. Desire is what makes life. All right. Did you know your brain requires a lot of energy, by the way? It does. Those of you that have reached my age, I was born way back in the middle of the last century, you realize that when you get low on energy in your bloodstream, your body is supposed to go after your fat cells. It doesn't. I'm obvious proof of that. To make more energy to run essential systems. Well, there are only a few essential systems in the human body. And what your physiology does in order to preserve those essential systems like your brain and your heart and all the little systems that run your endocrine system and that run and regulate your body, it will shut you down. And it does every single day. A lot of you need 8-10 hours sleep a day. I can't imagine that. I can't fathom that. I do on 4 or 5, and so does Donald Trump, and so did Nikola Tesla, and these Einstein, others. They don't sleep a lot. You may catnap in the middle of the day to get the stimulus to the brain again, but don't sleep a lot. 4 hours, I'm awake. That's it. And the sleeping is done. Naps after that, but no more sleeping. Sleeping is what happens when the energy system in the body gets to a certain point where it says, okay, shut down all the non-essential systems, like your muscles and everything, go to sleep, and let's restore. Because you use more energy running your brain and other things than the rest of your body can provide. You can't eat enough to do it because the digestive system and getting all the sugars and proteins and vitamins and everything that you need, they got to get to your cells. The cells got to do their job. Mitochondria got to recharge. And that's just the way it goes. That's just human physiology. But the human brain, it actually gobbles up 10 times more energy than the rest of your body. I would say most people are that way. Eating, it eats about 20% of our fuel intake on average when we're resting. When we're doing stuff, it has to compete for that energy. Even comatose patients who are said to be brain dead, only 2 or 3 times less energy is consumed by the brain. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? One of the great mysteries of human neuroscience, why does a largely inactive organ continue to require so much power? A new study pins the answer to a tiny and secret fuel guzzler hiding within our neurons. When a brain cell passes a signal to another neuron, it does so via a synapse. It's a small little gap, okay? It jumps the gap. That's how it kind of creates the potential. First, the presynaptic neuron sends a bunch of vesicles to the end of its tail, to the gap. We're going to jump this gap. And then these vesicles suck in neurotransmitters from within the neuron, acting sort of like envelopes that hold messages in need of being mailed. And then these filled envelopes are then transported to the very edge of the neuron where they dock and they fuse to the membrane, releasing their neurotransmitters into the synaptic gap. By the way, early studies that were done with LSD and cocaine, they found that not everybody can actually take these drugs. Some people can do cocaine one time, once, and they're comatose. We'll take a quick 3-minute break, and we'll be right back after this. Don't go away. While we're on break, I'll throw out some gold pills out there to my good friends at Foxhole.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm, So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
As we celebrate the holiday season and find ourselves standing on the precipice of the new year, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com would like to thank you, our amazing listeners, from the bottoms of our hearts and beyond, for being you. It is your kindness, your love, your generosity, and your constant support that has enabled us to become the powerful #1 listener-supported commercial-free station that we are today, providing you with a veritable variety of live programming hosted by beautiful people from all around the world on a nearly 24-hour basis every day of the year. It is your kindness, your love, your generosity, and your support that has helped to develop an international family, a strong, supportive community of like-minded souls, forged by friendship and love, bonded by a strong desire to bring about the positive changes so badly needed today. Together, we are navigating challenging moments in time, which will become footnotes to the future. Yet through these uncertain times, you have remained steadfast in your support. Support that we will never take for granted. Support that will enable us to continue building this station into a stronger bastion of free speech, blazing the light of truth out into the world. From all of us here, management, producers, moderators, and hosts, we wish you all the warmest, happiest of wishes for a safe holiday season, now and always.
All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
All right. All right, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about traveling planets. In my book, Remembering the Future, I speak of my memories of machine planets. These are small planet-sized ships. They're not permanently in orbit around any star. They fly through space with their population, and they consume worlds of energy to feed their inhabitants. They can survive for hundreds of years after taking raw materials from other worlds. Now, NASA has proof I was right about my memory. Astronomers have discovered dozens of new rogue planets, roughly doubling the known number of these mysterious free-roaming worlds. A team of researchers found a collection of at least 70 exoplanets that have no star. They're not in orbit around any star. It's the largest single group of rogue planets ever found. It's in a patch about 420 light years from Earth. My first memory is 1,800 light years from Earth, which, by the way, that world, which that machine planet exited before my death, quite a few years, but that planet was consumed in a red giant as the star exploded, and that was in the Cygnus region of space. We didn't call it Cygnus there. That world, in my memory, was in if you make the sound with the human mouth, it comes out Findara or Findara. That planet was consumed in that, and all the inhabitants, of course, wiped out. All the consciousnesses on that planet, free to then go wherever they wanted to go. I came here to this planet and was born. The light from that star explosion is going to arrive here at Earth. 1,800 years took for the light to travel here. It'll arrive in August of next year. So I'll give you some more reminders as we get closer to it. So you can look up and you can see the star. It will probably show up for about 1 or 2 or 3 months, and then it will go away. But it will vindicate my Remembering the Future story that I wrote in 2007. Anyway, we did not know how many to expect and are excited to have found so many, says Nuria Meret Roig, or it could be Raw. I don't know. It's French, so I don't speak French too well. An astronomer at the Laboratoire d'Astrophysique de Bordeaux in France and the University of Vienna in Austria. Let's see here. Get through that part right there. There are locations of 115 free-floating rogue planets recently discovered by a team of astronomers in the direction of the Upper Scorpius and Ophiuchus constellations. The exact number of rogues found by the team is between 70 and 170, depending on the age assumed for the study region. This image, let's see, I'm not going to include the image. Most exoplanets are found via observations of their host stars, because as the planet goes around the star, it perturbs the star. It wobbles back and forth. Sometimes you can see the planet go across the sun because you can see the light from the sun dim a little bit as the planet goes across it. You don't get that view very often unless the plane is exactly flat to our observation point. The strategies like that, though, they don't work for rogue planets because the stars are not being perturbed, so these planets are just floating through space on their own. They could still get energy from suns because there are a lot of stars in that region of space, and the races that live on them can tap into the energy sources on the inside of the planet, and they keep themselves quite satisfied for a long, long time. Astronomers have generally relied on a technique called gravitational microlensing, which involves watching foreground objects move in front of background stars. We could see a few of them because it just has to pass right in front of the star, and it blocks out the light. But that's not what this team did. They analyzed 20 years' worth of imagery and other data collected by a variety of telescopes on the ground and in space, including the European Southern Observatory's very large telescope in Chile, Japanese Subaru telescope in Hawaii, and the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft and the Dark Energy camera, an instrument mounted on the 4-meter Victor M. Blanco telescope at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory in Chile. We observe the tiny motions, the colors, and luminosities of tens of millions of sources in a large array of the sky. These measurements allowed us to securely identify the faintest objects in the region, the rogue planets. Let's see here. Out of that, researchers saw infrared energy emitted by 70 to 170 gas giant rogue planets, which was published actually today in the journal Nature. The range stems from uncertainty. The observations did not allow the team to nail down the observed body's exact masses, and objects of at least 13 times more massive than Jupiter are likely to be failed stars, known as brown dwarfs, rather than planets. The new results bolster the idea that rogue planets are common throughout the Milky Way galaxy, perhaps even outnumbering normal worlds that orbit parent stars. It's what I say in Remembering the Future. And further investigation of these newfound worlds and others like them would help astronomers better understand how rogue planets came to be. Study team members said, for example, Do most of them form by themselves, condensing from a cloud of material too small to produce a star, or are rogues usually born in normal solar systems but booted into the vast dark void by dramatic gravitational interactions? The answer is yes to both of those. Okay, these large, I call them machine planets, because they really take a lot of extra intelligent work in them in order to support life. They're actually the ultimate spaceship, because they can protect you from all kinds of radiation. They have all the raw materials that you need to build a support system, life support system. And maybe they were in orbit around a sun at some time or another, and the race became advanced enough, or were able to prepare themselves for being jerked out of orbit by a passing gravitational body that pulled them away from their sun and out into the darkness of space. But they do exist, and I would say they also have life on them. Leak Project out there on YouTube says Halo. Yeah, that's where the game Halo came from, right? Right, going from planet to planet, fighting bad guys on other planets. There's a conversation in the chat room going on about the rapture. I wrote a trilogy called the Birth Trilogy. You can see the books there rotating through the video on the video feed that's going out there. You can't see them on a Revolution Radio, but the Birth Trilogy is a new twist on the rapture, because the rapture doesn't really exist. Okay, that it's extra biblical language. There's no word rapture in the scriptures. It comes from the book of Thessalonians, where it talks about the righteous being caught up in the clouds to meet Jesus when he comes, and that the wicked would be burned as stubble on the earth, and that we would be sort of spectators when that happened. To be honest, I don't want to be in those bleachers. I don't want harm like that to come on billions of human beings, where I can see it. I don't want that in my memory. I don't have a memory like that. I don't think any other race has been wiped out like that, except for, an exploding star, in which case we're not talking about righteous or evil. We're just talking about an astronomical event that terminates all life on a world. In fact, the whole world turns into energy or is blown away. But birth addresses the principle of the rapture in the sense that what we're talking about is mankind having a symbiotic relationship with Earth. That Earth, technically speaking, is a living thing. It respirates, it brings forth life spontaneously, it tends toward stasis. It has systems on it that allows it to regulate its temperature, to move food around the planet and feed all the life on it. It has the ability to resist toxins. It tends to rejuvenate itself, regenerate itself given time. If there are vast oil spills, you can go back in 5 years and everything's green and growing again. Life has a way of compensating for mistakes on this world. So ancient man and modern man needs to come to this understanding, like ancient man did, that we have a symbiotic relationship with this living thing called Earth. And periodically, as the average consciousness of the Earth becomes wicked, we have seen throughout history that Earth has a kind of allergic reaction to this. It has a tidal wave, an earthquake, a volcanic explosion, a string of hurricanes. It spanks mankind back down to a few tribes, and it starts over again. We see this in history. We've got records of it all over the planet. And now, because of advancements in technology, or maybe it's because other spirits like me came to this planet with knowledge, star knowledge, light knowledge that they brought with them, and when they matured, they began to tap into those memories and use those skills that they had on other worlds here that we have advanced. And we have advanced in a way that allows mankind to reach a population, they say, of about 8 billion people on this planet. I don't really think there are 8 billion people on the planet, but, global organizations say we have that kind of population, so maybe we do. I've been all over China. I haven't been all over India. I hear Bombay is pretty crowded. But I'm not seeing a record of no 8 billion people on the planet. But let's just say there are. So you have 8 billion conscious beings alive on the planet at one time. And from the looks of it, it looks like about half of them are wicked and half of them are evil. I mean, we just see that in the social interaction of the world, whether it's elections or wars or tyranny or slavery or whatever it is, it's about half and half. So Earth at this point doesn't react really, really fast, but Earth at this point can't really make up its mind whether it's going to rise up and destroy us or whether it's going to release its bounty to us. And so the birth series is spelled B-E-A-R-T-H, like it's a play on words, birth of a new Earth. Earth decides to split. Earth decides to divide itself, take the square root of itself, to a higher vibrational planet and a lower vibrational version of itself. And we see evidence of this, throughout the book of Genesis. We see two worlds, basically. One world where there is man and woman, and they're tilling the earth, and they're just, rocking out babies and meeting out their living in a simple way. We have another world where Adam is placed, and then 1,000 years later, Eve is then cloned or developed from his DNA out of his rib. And so Eve is then taken to another world, developed, obviously born and raised and taught and all that stuff, and then brought to earth and given to Adam in what's called the Garden of Eden. Now, you may think it's a garden called Eden, but it's not. You got to read the book of Genesis carefully, literally here. It says a garden eastward in Eden. So Eden is like a planet. It's like a world. And eastward on this world is a garden that's specially designed. And we have done that repeatedly in different places on this planet. South America, it's been done. Russia, it was done. You can create a garden that is self-sustaining. It has all the rights, fruits, vegetables. It has briars to keep predators out. It's designed that one plant's critters are the food for another plant's predators, and it all creates this balance. If you don't believe me, there's a movie. It's probably one of the best documentaries ever made. Get a pencil out. I'll put it in the chat room too. But it's called The Biggest Little Farm. The Biggest Little Farm. And it is an amazing documentary. It's done by a documentarian anyway. But they evidently get the money together and they buy this old, run-down ghost of a fruit farm, okay, in California. And it's a disaster. It's so ecologically out of balance, it's just not working. But a genius guy comes along and he says, no, I got an idea that if you'll follow my advice, we can develop this into a self-sustaining farm. And it takes him about 7 years. The guy ends up dying of cancer before he actually sees the fruition of it. But the owners of the farm keep going with it. And at the conclusion of the movie, you can see how every animal, every plant, every insect, every snail, every bird works toward the balance of this farm. It's a garden. It's a self-sustaining garden. And it can adapt to everything. Weather, pestilence, everything adapts because it's perfectly designed. Evidently, God built a garden like this, and he put Adam and Eve in that garden. They didn't have to want for anything, in nothing. But obviously, over time, while God was not on the world, Lucifer was here and was able to wreak the same havoc he wreaks on every world he travels to, was able to reduce the planet Eden to the point where God had to move it. And so Eden was moved here, and it was merged with this planet on which man existed. The merging was cataclysmic, to say the least. It took 7 months, according to the scripture, for things to settle down once these two planets merged. So you had higher vibrational Eden merging with a lower vibrational planet of rock and metal, and the two became what we live on right now. Now, at the end of days, the higher vibrational Earth is ready to leave, and it's going to take the higher vibrational beings with it. So the race of mankind, the living race of mankind, is literally going to divide. That's what I call the grand division. The grand division occurs like we've seen it. Mankind, street by street, block by block, nation by nation, was about 50% evil and 50% righteous. And righteous is just a state of movement toward a being that would be acceptable to God. We judge ourselves instantaneously every minute of the day, but over time, we end up being what we want to be in the end. So what happens is, whereas one time we were somewhat homogeneous, kind of all mixed together, good and evil, we separate. Evil stays behind, and good men and women and children move together. Now, once the grand division is made known, then the gathering occurs. The gathering occurs because the two worlds are actually physically beginning to separate. Like they're phasing one to the other. So the evil people cannot perceive the higher vibrational Earth. They don't have the ability to see that vibration. The righteous do have the ability to see it, and they gravitate toward it. And as the planet finally separates, you have two worlds. One goes back through the rift in the Milky Way toward its parasitical glory, along with the higher vibrational souls on them. Of course, there's war on the planet and between the planets, and that's what makes the book interesting, the novels interesting. But the story is going to change the way you look at life. And it's going to change the way you look at death. And it's going to completely reformulate, or I think realign, your feelings on the rapture. And the reason this discussion came up, because in the chat room, people were talking about, some Christians don't believe in a rapture. Yeah, that's true. And some Christians don't believe in a tribulation. And some Christians, I know a lot of Baptists, they don't believe in resurrection. No. They don't believe in resurrection. They believe they're going to heaven. They're not going to be here. They're going to go be with God wherever he is. I don't know if that happens or not, but I do know that there ain't no rapture. This is probably the way it's going to occur. Two worlds are going to split apart. And Mad Hat 1, James Gilliland talks about this because I gave the talk at his place in 2009. It was a big impact. It changed the world. And the Birth Trilogy needs to be made into a TV series so that more people can experience this. It's 1,100 pages, but it's all in audio, so if you're not a great reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you. You can pick them up on Amazon and get the audiobooks for free from me, or you can buy the audiobooks on my website. And by the way, someone was complaining out there that Chapter 12 didn't work for the Grand Division. I fixed it. There was a small coding error. It's now working, so all is well with the world. All right, let's see. I think we're at the point now where we have to say goodnight to YouTube, because I'm going to go into an area that they are not going to allow me to go. So let me see where we are. Oh, it's good. Everybody's made the transition. So I'm going to turn YouTube off. Good night, YouTube, because we're not going to let you censor us. We're going to censor you.